We are attempting a little bit of new technology this morning as we have been trying to upgrade our technology here a little bit. We have gone to a new webcam so that we can both record our meetings and also offer our commissioners the opportunity to be in person when they're not in person. We were trying with Commissioner Cruz earlier. We had some technical difficulties, so we're not able to get his beautiful face on the screen today. But we will be able to do that within the next 30 days. So we'll take that. But right now we are recording the session, and it will be placed on the YouTube channel that is for the Housing Authority, so that the public can go back at a later date and view the meetings. We're working on positions.
Like I had my face on YouTube. Like, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 30th, 2013, and the working session of January 20th, 2013.
Second.
It's been moved and second to receive the minutes of January 30th and January 28th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any public comments on the agenda item?
Yeah. For that non-agenda.
Non-agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Review of financial?
The Housing Authority year to date has a $291,000 net profit. We saw an increase in the amount of Section 8 money we received for the month of January. The federal fiscal year actually starts in January, so they make all of their changes relative to the Section 8 program on January 1. We started to see our new funding at that point in time, which is a slight increase from what we received in the previous 12 months. Overall, the individual programs, the Section 8 program still has roughly a $900,000 net loss, which is pretty much the same as it was the previous month. When we looked at December, we had around the same number. The increase in HAP funding that came from HUD in January, as well as in conjunction with the decreases in expenses that we put forth, we lowered our fair market rents, and we also cut back on new leasing. We think that those have kind of worked together to kind of help mitigate some of the losses that we've been experiencing. The public housing program, as we all know, is running very efficiently. Right now, it has a $1.2 million net profit. So in that program where we have seen significant efficiency, we've utilized a lot of outside sources of funding from grants and other areas where we've been able to have a significant profit in that program. Are there any questions about the financials themselves? Any questions on the list of bills?
The list shows like everything year to date.
Yes.
So I have a question on that. When the new year starts, some of these old bills can drop off.
Well, I'm sorry, you're talking about the financials or the list of bills?
I was just talking about the list of
The
bills.
list of bills is monthly. It's over the last 30 days. As far as the year-to-date financials, they will carry forward up until March 31st. So when we do in our April meeting, we'll have our March financials. After that, we'll roll over into a new fiscal year for the agency where we'll start at zero again.
Okay.
And you're gonna add that to monthly.
Yes, absolutely. We'll actually add those for next month. I don't want to wait for those. So we will add the monthly financials as part of the report. It'll just be another couple columns in there that we'll add starting next month.
Hey, Keith, I got a quick question for clarification.
Sir?
So when a lot of companies, they do their reports, whether it's public or private, it's like in the middle of the year, weird part of the year, whatever. Are we forced to do that, or can we see something that's January through December?
We are allowed to report the financials, however it makes sense for us to do. There's no HUD requirement as to how we report. So if the board wants to see the reporting done in a different way or across a different timeline, it's just a matter of changing the way we do the reporting.
I mean, I just think it's easier to have a fiscal year, and again, we can talk about this later, it just came to mind, to have like a fiscal year instead of something in the middle, because it just gets confusing with what you're spending where, you know what I mean? So we can look at that in the future, just kind of jot it down and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. If there are no other questions on the financials?
Do we have a motion to approve them?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, review monthly staff reports.
The Housing Authority, to point, we have discussed reviewing our operations, and we have started that process. We are in the information gathering point of the process right now, where we are gathering all the different procedures. We're really starting to put together some smaller groups internally. We're going to look at our public housing operations, our Section 8 operations, our accounting operations, just to make sure that we understand, A, how we do everything, and then B, we're going to try and find out where some of the inefficiencies are, so that we can really put forward a plan that both looks at how we do things and also looks at the overall what we want to become. That plan will also include, as we discussed, additional resident services and resident activities. It will discuss possibilities of upgrading our units and improving the overall quality of housing in the housing authority as well. We will look at, as we mentioned before, basically the entire agency as a whole and see what changes we need to make to drive ourselves forward into a situation where we're a housing authority that does the best that it can with the funds that it receives to enable as much affordable housing as possible within the city. Along those lines also is a budget which the Housing Authority has presented in a draft form to the commissioners. As we understand, we want to give you some time to look that over, really dig through and answer questions that you want to ask. So we're not looking for a resolution on that budget. We will bring one forward for the March meeting prior to the fiscal year beginning. Just over off the top, the budget is estimated at about a $13.9 million budget. That's a slight increase, but very minimal considering the typical increases that housing authorities usually have. Well, I think our budget this year is about 13.5, so it's very close in terms of the size of the increase. It's not really a substantial jump. That's $8.6 million for the Section 8 program and $5.2 million for the public housing program. The Section 8 program, keep in mind, of that $8.6 million, $8 million of it is money that comes in and goes right back out the door to provide rent assistance for our families. The other $600,000 is administrative for staffing and the typical overhead that you have in any business. There's also capital funds that are included in that budget. Those funds are for the overall improvements of the agency. While we may use them more, and it may feel that we're using one more smaller point-driven purpose, they are planned out at the beginning of the year. We do have to submit a plan to HUD that includes how we plan to use those funds, and that plan is more for overstating and large-scale improvements to the agency and modernization to the agency. But the board has that budget. You guys obviously really need some time to review that and ask the questions that you'll have. Other than that, we discussed the financials. So, are there any questions from you?
On the said $13.9 million budget on Monday, we talked about that the part of the money's coming in from the federal government, coming since January, so a little bit easier to budget, and some of the monies might potentially get tied up with all the wrangling that's going on right now. And so, do we have? I mean, at this point, 13.9 is the budget you're presenting, and then I guess if we ultimately don't get the monies that we think we're going to get, how do we address that? We
received notification actually just this morning from HUD as to their plans if the budget cuts are enacted as of March 1st. Right now, we had already budgeted for 92% basically of our funding. They're notifying us that for the Section 8 program, we'll actually receive 94%. So it's a little bit more than we had anticipated if the cuts were to go through. We've actually been receiving a little bit more than that already. The public housing program is a different story. HUD has put out initiatives that they would drop down to 81% the funding for the public housing program, which is a significant loss of funding. We have started the process. I've already started to put together a kind of backup budget in the event that would happen. I'll share that with the board as well once I get a little more information from HUD. There are a few things that they will allow us to do if that happens. Number one, there's a rule right now that really itemizes how we can spend the money on what properties we can spend the money on. There's a ruling called fungibility, which allows us to kind of move monies between programs, which would allow us, which we can't normally do, is move Section 8 money to public housing administratively and vice versa. We will utilize that if we're allowed to do that. The budget is starting to be prepared. One of the good things about the public housing program is that it has the rent portion, and that piece won't change. It's not really affected by the government's changes in our funding. So the roughly $850,000 we expect to get in rent, we still expect to get that. So that's a cushion that we have in that program. But in the event that we do lose those funds, we will have a contingency budget prepared, and we will move into that budget.
Is that 81% number that you just gave us, is that 81% of what we got last year or 80?
Yes, of last year.
So that's a pretty big number.
Yes, it is a substantial cut in funding. Normally in this situation, and don't get me wrong, I am not that worried to the extent that I've been in situations where in 2006, HUD initially funded housing authorities at 76% of their budgets. Towards the end of that fiscal year, once the finances kind of settle themselves out and HUD gets the remainder of their funding, they will back fund all the monies that they didn't provide to you. So if that happens, typically later in the year, once all the finances get settled out, they will take the time to then provide those funds to us.
Okay.
I don't, not a question on next year's budget, but a question back to the strategic plan that you mentioned, or maybe just more of a comment. When you present that to us, part of it, in terms of measuring like processes and the admin and different things we want to do, the units and that's kind of easier. I'm not quite sure how you were thinking about going about kind of programs and like the Ross program. How do we like put a plan around programs like that to measure the different programs and the success of programs and which programs should continue, which programs should be enhanced and stuff like that? Is that in your thought process?
It is not. We will certainly, one of the things we want to do is make sure that the programs that we have are giving us results. We want to make sure that we were actually impacting the community in a positive way. So we will look to see and make sure that the things that we are doing are helping and to what extent they're helping. And if we feel that they're not, then what alternatives are potentially better to provide more impact. Sharon?
Our public housing waiting list has remained pretty stable. We are pulling off quite a few one-bedrooms to fill our vacancies for the unit offers. During January, we had 6 new families move in, but 10 families moved out, so we're not making much progress there. The Housing Choice Voucher Program staff and I met with the licensed clinical social workers. There are 4 of them, but 2 came out to talk to us about the HUD VASH program, which is the Veterans Affairs Supported Housing Program. It was very productive to have the counselors here because our case managers and the counselors could discuss issues that are occurring and how best to resolve them with the case managers right there. This program is to decrease homelessness for veterans, so it's very important that they're stabilized and able to meet the requirements and stay in their units. HUD determines the communities that have the most homeless veterans and the closest VA clinics because they're working in conjunction with this program. And right now, Cook County and DeKalb are the only counties in our area that have been issued VASH vouchers. We have 11 of these vouchers porting into our area, and it's likely maybe in the near future because we have a VA clinic in North Aurora. And the fact that veterans are porting in, that HUD will offer us to make application for these vouchers. And since 2008, a total of 37, almost 38,000 VASH vouchers have been awarded. The qualifiers for the veterans, a lot of the requirements have been waived. Basically, if they're not over income and they're listed on the sex offender list, they're qualified. So, on the RUS program, the summary, there are now 26 RUS clients in the program. The internship between the AHA and the Fox Valley Restore has begun, and there are 4 clients scheduled for the internship. Kim Aponte was able to work with St. Paul's Lutheran, and they are going to donate money for bus passes, and we thought just for the first 4, but I think they're going to continue meeting that need, which is great. She's also linking up with volunteers to deliver food from the food pantry to our disabled clients who are unable to get out and get the food themselves. And she's established an agreement for clients who are on Medicare and want family counseling services. They've waived the $50 credit counseling fee, which is quite steep for low-income families. And their mental health counseling fees will be $1 to $2 per session. Beverly Lloyd, the compliance analyst, and I met with our new attorneys, and Mr. Anderson is present. Hello.
Hello.
And we went through the files that had been pending referral until they were under contract. I also met with Jessica this afternoon, and we talked in depth about some of the files and what's going on with them. And I think it was very informative. And I've had to email her on another case, and the response has been very quick, and I appreciate that. Thank you. HUD had issued a regulatory reform notice, which I posted for a 30-day comment period. I met with the advisory committee, resident advisory committee, and for comment, and so they knew what was going on. There were no comments received, so we're going to implement the regulatory changes because they give us more flexibility on some of the requirements, which will help speed up the process. For instance, families or people on fixed incomes, we used to have to verify their income each year, but now we can just add the cost of living increase. So that'll cut down on having to verify things. People can self-certify that their assets are below $5,000 instead of bringing in bank statements. So this will help somewhat. We're also able to increase the payment standard at 120% of the fair market rent. And we used to have an approval to do that, to accommodate people that need a reasonable accommodation for a disabled person in their household. And then right after this notice, we got another notice saying that we no longer have to provide documentation for disregarded income. We used to have people bring in statements documenting how many food stamps or how much money they get a month, and then you put it in and then you disregard that. And the income of living aids also had to be documented. They're allowing us to just have them self-certify that information. So it helps the residents and staff cut down on their time. And then I did list the site activities at all the sites that are ongoing on a weekly or monthly basis. And Chairman Henry Champion notified me that there was one program I didn't know about, and it's called WOW, and it's Word on Wednesdays. So they're feeding between 35 and 40 children.
That's a good figure, but it's higher than that.
It's higher than that now. I just talked to Ravella yesterday.
Okay.
So they're feeding the children the Word and a meal, and the resident council at Eastwood is driving the bus to bring the children to the church. So I wanted to add that to the list.
Sharon, you talk about 10 individuals or families that moved out. Obviously, eviction and death are not good situations, but when it says moving elsewhere, what is that? Are there any positive situations?
Yeah, we had, I think the last couple of months I reported that some people have actually purchased homes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one last month that did the same thing, so it's not always under bad circumstances. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, people get married and they move, or they just are able to find a place on their own and no longer require assistance.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how ultimately you track success, but that would be an interesting thing to track success, to see if we're having.
Yeah, absolutely, because see, if we haven't touched them, say through the Ross project or anything like that, we're still assisting them in the fact that they're living here. I think we need to capture that.
Sure. Acronym SNAP. What those words?
Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. It's the same as food stamps.
I got that.
Okay.
The Ross clients, is it 26 separate families? Or counted there?
She has 26 individuals on the program, on a goal plan. So it could be 2 or 3 people in one family, I'm not sure, but it's 26 individual goal plans.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make a quick comment?
Go ahead, Mike.
There are some individuals in the community, outside the community, wherever they are, that would say that, that our board might not be doing proper things to help the people that we're really supposed to help. I think documentation of our successes is very important going forward. So people can't, accuse, blame, we're not doing our jobs. So I think it's real important, that we do that.
Thank you, that gives me an idea of what type of reporting for me you're looking for, and I can do that, tell you exactly why people moved out, I did it a couple of months.
And again, the Ross, the 26 number is a good way to measure that, but I don't know what the right way to measure.
She
when
keeps a
within
real
the
good
Ross, what
tracking system, the goals they meet, how many phone conversations she's had, if they've kept appointments with places she's referred them to, she's very specific.
I mean, Keith, you and staff can really figure that out, right?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
Yeah, so we don't, so you guys can set up that criteria, but I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned my underlying point, which I think is similar to what you guys are talking about too. So we should have some type of process or some type of procedure to be measuring, if we're hitting as a board, our goals also.
We had done that a while ago, and they had kept track of that, and it was amazing to actually follow and see what's going on and what's happened to the people.
And like high school graduation rates, or I don't know, whatever the.
Well, she also
whatever
has
side.
reporting requirements for HUD, so she has to keep track of a lot of different criteria.
We'll build a lot of new information as we go forward into this. Without that kind of information, we really won't be able to determine, how well we're doing. That's one of the things we want to have is an ability to kind of grade ourselves as an agency to say, of the population of the city of Aurora, how many people are we helping, and are we helping them to move on, or are we just housing them? So there are some items that we need to kind of put together to kind of grade ourselves to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
It's our implementing some of the procedures that we had talked about earlier at the beginning of the year. Basically, as the guys are doing those daily work orders, we've been doing safety tests just to get us ready for the HUD inspection and stuff, along with generating work orders when they see things that residents maybe have not noticed or hadn't reported. Along with that, with the daily pickups and the emergency and various other activities like hospital smoke. As we're doing our vacancies, some of our older units and stuff, we've been replacing the cabinets and putting new water efficient toilets and shower heads and upgrading them a little bit. And actually at one of our scattered sites, we actually have been trying something different. We're not using our standard commercial type material. We're actually kind of making more of a residential look, more of a more appealing look. Just not only just from the outside, but also from the inside. Some of the stuff that we'll be doing is right now we're in the process. Right now we've got out the house. It's all the way down to just drywall. We're starting right now to proceed to start painting different colors. We'll be putting in new cabinetry, upgraded appliances, new shower, new toilets. And some lighting. We're still doing our daily inspections and maintaining the Jericho Social Center, and also 3 of our scattered site houses that are we're still waiting for HUD to approve itself. We did have contractors come out and do some home repair at one of our scattered sites where one of our residents ran through the back end of the garage. So we also had some roof repairs done here at the Centennial House, and we had two glass doors replaced, one here at Centennial House and one on Depot Terrace. We're still continuing to work with Habitat Restoration Center as far as picking up material and then actually delivering to the residents. Kim Ponte, Set, set something up so we can actually do that on a monthly basis. So, we had some inspections done, we had, a fire inspection done by Central Alarm Protection for here, at Centennial House and Maple Terrace, and we also did have black door testing done here at Centennial and Maple Terrace. And we completed 8 vacancies.
On that, garage, has a claim been filed on that? Insurance claim?
We will file a claim. We actually have to get in touch with our property insurance carrier, which is Armla, and we'll file a claim with them. They'll reimburse us for the expenses and they'll address the legal aspect of it.
Any questions for Jim?
I think this brings up, just popped into my mind. Our scatter site housing, if we do have garages, are we making sure that, because of course their insurance company should have taken care of that, are we making sure that if they do have vehicles, that their vehicles are fully insured?
To be honest, no. To be completely honest, the answer is no. Yeah, that's the question. It becomes, can we? But it is some certainly we'll speak with council and see what we can do with that. We hope not. We have one resolution for the board in regards to office space. The Housing Authority has basically, we've essentially exhausted the office space that we have. As of right now, each of the offices that we have here are filled. We actually have a member of the administrative staff actually upstairs in the rent office for this building. So we have run to the very end of our available space in this building. So this resolution is to do 2 things. One, to approve me to seek out and propose new office space to the board at a later date. So I will be in the process of seeking out and finding the space that would make the most sense for the Housing Authority, but also to allow us to turn this space upon vacating it into a community resource center, one that would house several community service providers for both Housing Authority residents as well as the broader community. So this would become kind of a central location for any kind of services that we determine there was a need for. Educational, healthcare, as we discussed, need for mental health services that are being provided. Our Ross coordinator has done an excellent job kind of building some relationships, and we'd like to see those relationships all kind of be locally housed in one place. So we would not abandon this location and leave it empty. We would fill it with resources that would then further assist our families. But ultimately, we do have a need for additional office space. There are a few additional positions we'd like to have on staff, and a couple other programs we'd like to run, internship programs, things to involve our residents and some younger and college students and high school students to get them involved in this industry and this business. And right now, we just simply lack the space to do that kind of thing. So this resolution is to seek out and present a proposal to the board at probably the next board meeting on some new space and a proposal for changing this space into a community resource. Any questions?
Any motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 13-04.
Second. All in favor? No, roll call.
Henry Champlin,
Yay.
Matty Koval,
Yes.
Scott Boris.
Yes.
Judy Runge. Yes. Bill Powell.
Yes.
Ray Cruz.
Affirmative.
Dave Richard.
Yes.
It's been, that's it. Moving second, approved that resolution 1304 passed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
Redevelopment issues and approval.
Unless there's any discussion that the board wishes to have, we have no new information at this point in time.
Okay. Public comments on non-agenda items. Got a sheet. Sylvia Holland,
Yes,
how are you?
hi. I used to be a resident here, and now I still run one of our nonprofit organizations, the Melody Club, that's out of here. I was in contact last week, and I set 4 Northern Illinois food pantry delivery trucks, and we're gonna have 4 this year. They're all gonna be on a Wednesday, April the 17th, June the 19th, August the 28th, and October the 16th. I've confirmed with Gloria Rijos that this is fine. So that's a very blessing. They get 4 mobile food pantry trucks, 4 Centennial House. And we're gonna have 4 for a Christian retirement center on Mitchell Road, so.
Thank you for all your work, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Kevin Holmes.
Good afternoon. I come in to speak on behalf of one of my friends, residents over at Maple Terrace, about an issue about the zero income, because he was charged an income that he didn't have. His income went from $18 to $98. He doesn't have a job at the present, and he had to pay back pay on the $98. But it was told to him that by him not having an income, his rent was only supposed to be $18. So now if he owed back rent, he would owe like the late fee, which would have been $38 for 3 months, which would have been only like $100-something. Now he was wondering why should he have to pay the $98 for those 3 months when he wasn't supposed to. I mean, he just had a baby, in February. I mean, he doesn't have the income as it is, and he don't know the rules about the zero income, or what qualifies, or whatever. It's hearsay, but he say the person told him by him just giving up plasma or whatever, his income jumped up to $98. I mean, that's not really a job. I mean, he has health problems himself. So now, he felt that it was kind of bad for him to pay this money's out or to go get these monies, and they're not going to get back reimbursed. But his rent went back from, it went up to $98, then it went back down to $18. And he want to know why is the purpose of all this anyway. Because like a lot of residents over there, they don't have a zero income form. They don't know when y'all have meetings over here, which you are the board. I mean, you can resolve it any kind of way you want it, but it's just out of the morale. How can you tell a person when they come in office, okay, your rent's going up? You don't have a job. Your rent's gonna go from $18 to $98 because I gave you a compensation like, well, okay, I can live a plasma, put money in my pocket.
Technically, and I don't mean to touch over you.
Sure.
Technically, HUD requires that any resident report any income that they have, and we're required to consider that income when evaluating the rent. There are opportunities for exceptions, and this is on a case-by-case basis. We'll need to obviously examine that individual's case. He'll need to come down to the rent office, or if he feels that he needs to come to the main office, he certainly can, and speak with someone. Either I believe you live in Maple Terrace, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if he needs to come, his property manager, Teresa Kraft, if he feels he needs to go above Teresa, he can speak with Sharon Coyle here, and we can make an accommodation to come see him. If he would like to speak with me, I'll do the same, and come out and see him as well. To be quite honest, like I said, I mean, the HUD rules require that we consider all income. That's not to say that every situation is set in stone. We'll do anything we can to be accommodating without obviously breaking the rules. But there may have been a lack of communication, and for that, please tell your friends that I apologize, and that we'll do whatever we can do to make the situation right. But we have to do also what's required of the housing code.
So like I said, he did have a meeting with Ms. Coyle, and she corrected the problem. But what I'm saying is the problem is when she corrected it, why did he still have to pay this $98 for 3 months?
If he had, and then I don't want to get. I mean, one of the problems we have here, we're speaking about a third party, and this we can't go into too much detail about an individual that's not here.
But he did tell me to come and
No, I understand.
So why don't you ask him to meet with the manager, and then if he needs to meet with Mr. Gregory, we'll do that.
Well, he paid the money, but what I'm saying is,
why did he reimburse?
Right, I mean, because he went to another agency to get money for it.
I'll tell you,
and that money's in limbo.
If you can have him meet, get a time, and I'll come down to Maple Terrace maybe sometime this week, and I'll figure out some of the details of this. But like I said, because we're talking about a third party, I can't go into a lot of detail. But I will make a point to come down to Maple Terrace and sit with yourself and and sit with this individual as well, so we can kind of figure this out.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Is there somebody on site at Mr.
Yes.
Charlene Wilson?
Yes, I live in Maple Terrace too, and I had an issue. Something happened with one of my friends in 2011, and I've been talking to people when I was directed here. And this happened in 2011, which he admitted that it happened, and it happened, and the police put him on a year trespass warning, a warning trespass for a year. He's been on there for a year. So 2012, November, Aurora Housing wants to come to me. I don't know if it's Teresa not doing her job or is she a year backed up in her job, but then they want to come to me 2012 and tell me they're going to take him off the warning trespass and put him on a ban list after a whole year, which I've tried to contact Keith, but we haven't got a touchdown yet. But I appealed it, which when I appealed it, I came and appealed it, and we were in a meeting. I tried to talk 2 times, which I got interrupted twice. I asked to see the surveillance camera. I was interrupted, and then she looked at me and asked me, what am I doing here? So there was no winning in that situation with her. So I got up politely and I left. But all I'm saying is that I know the part of the story that I was trying to explain, and then I got a letter in the mail saying by the surveillance that they see, she's gonna keep him on a ban list. But what surveillance? Am I supposed to see the surveillance? I mean, don't I get a right to see the camera? Because I know for a fact it didn't happen on the Aurora Housing property. But show me what you're seeing. That's all I'm asking, and I would like to know. You don't have to answer me now. I mean, but when you come and meet, I would like to talk to somebody that's gonna listen to me and not interrupt me. And that's all. I think it's fair.
Absolutely, ma'am. You are correct in that the housing authority does have a responsibility to hear out exactly what your issue is.
Okay.
And I will make it a point when I'm on my visit to see you as well.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
before you leave, please give me the name and contact number so I can reach out to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Same for you, sir.
Okay.
Peggy Hicks?
Good evening. I'm Peggy Hicks, and I'm here on behalf of Maple Terrace. Also, I was there maybe about a month ago and ran into a couple of residents, and a lot of them know what I do in the community advocate. And they had some serious concerns about their rights and the process. And oftentimes, a lot of the residents don't know the process. If I get a letter, what I do, the hearing procedures, oftentimes they don't know that. And I'm not accusing anybody, but I have heard from many there that with the current manager that's on site, that there are certain people that she listens to and certain that she doesn't. So to this new board, and we talked about wanting to show progress and wanting to show results, it would be good if some of the board members would go and visit your sites, not just be a board, but go and visit those sites. And I think that people should be treated with dignity, no matter what their income is, and that these individuals have a right to appeal. Now, all of them are not right, but you have some that are doing the right things over there, and they should have a right to do so. And to do so and where they're heard, and maybe you don't come to the same conclusion, but at least they know that they're being heard. So I'm just here in support of them. I was there talking to a young lady, was interrupted by the residential council vice chair, I believe. Susan, whatever her name is, vice chair?
She's not even in chair. She's talking about Susan
Okay,
McMahon.
I was talking to a resident, and she interrupted and says, you can't be here. And I said, excuse me? You can't be here. So I just ignored her and was very nice to her. And then I proceeded the next day to contact one of your board members, Matt Coble, and I asked her to return with me so I could finish talking to the young lady I was talking to let her know that you don't know who you're talking to or who's visiting that place, and so you should not be talking to people in any kind of manner. You need to respect people. You should have asked me and not just, So anyway, there's a lot of things going on over there, and I didn't hear it from one person. I heard it from many, and so I just really would appeal to Mr. Gregory to go over, as well as some of the board members, and see what's going on. And you can make it a better place by just listening sometimes. And that's all I have to say.
We do go to Maple Terrace every year for one of our meetings. We have it right over there, and you know, for people to come up if they've got questions and stuff. So we'll make sure that we do that.
I don't usually read, but we have three. So if you'll choose.
I'll let me know when you're going over there.
We have a regular meeting over there.
Well, I understand, but I think that they're expressing a desire for people to be there, just to be there, and not just at a meeting.
Right.
Well, I was over there passing out flyers about history, so.
Ms. Hicks,
Yes, sir.
certainly appreciate your concern and speaking on behalf of the residents. We know oftentimes our residents do find it difficult maybe to attend our meetings or aren't really aware when we post things on the internet sometimes, but it may not be as as much awareness as we might like. So we do appreciate you coming in, being a voice on behalf of the residents. We will definitely look into, like I said, the issues that have been presented today. We've already discussed them internally a little bit, so we've started down that road. I actually have, and I haven't been in the last couple months, so I am at fault, have been to the last couple of resident council meetings at Maple Terrace, and I'll have to start going again to make sure that I'm getting all the information from the residents as well. But we will, like I said, I'll make a trip down there probably this week, maybe next week, to try and coordinate a few schedules here. But we'll come out, sit down with everybody, and try and get a better feel for what's happening at the site and ways we can improve as a nation.
Do we know when those meetings are they held?
They're usually the first.
Every third Wednesday. Every third Wednesday of the month.
What time?
3:30 p.m.
Tenant council?
Tenant council meeting. Yeah, tenant council meeting.
We get schedules of the different meetings that go on, so we can be more proactive.
Do you have any legal issues pending or impending?
With us today is our new counsel from Mickey Wilson Weiler, Renzi and Anderson. I don't know if you get that one. This is Mr. Steve Anderson, who is representing the firm today. We will have at least one member of their firm will sit with us at our regular sessions each month. I think that's kind of been a practice we've had historically, and we want to continue. But we do appreciate their willingness and interest in working with the Housing Authority. We think we've picked a very solid firm with great experience, great expertise. They've already kind of come in, hit the ground running. They've been working with Sharon and myself to really put a lot of things in place and get up to speed quickly. So we're excited about the partnership.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. You'll get to know myself, Pete Wilson, my partner, our associate Jessica Drejos, another partner of ours, Bernie Weiler. But you probably see most of myself and Pete at board meetings unless there are particular issues that would draw others of us into the meeting. But we look forward to getting to know you and how you like to operate. We like to tailor our work to a way that would meet your standards. So, every client is different, and we will make our services available to you the way you want them. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Is this officially that the other attorneys are done?
Yeah. Yes, we actually got our the final invoice came I think a couple of days ago, so we'll pay that out, and that is the end there.
I was just curious about the transition, and are there things that need to be discussed with the new attorneys that the old attorney would know and that type of thing?
We've already had a few meetings with the new attorneys. We'll continue to have those meetings as things come up and as we need to inform them of things.
Awesome.
Anything else to come before this board?
Excuse me, Henry, can I say something?
Yes, you may.
We have, our resident council meetings here at Centennial House have been moved. since Gloria Rios has her meetings on the second Wednesday of every month, resident council here will meet the third Tuesday of every month at 3:30. We let Gloria have her meetings, and then we moved ours to the third Tuesday.
One of the things we are
From the second Tuesday to the third Tuesday. So anybody that might have something that they, a problem that they had after they heard what Gloria had to say, then they can bring it up at our resident council meetings. And you guys and Mr. Gregory are also all free to come.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jim.
One of the things we try to avoid is having property management, site managers at the resident council meeting. It creates kind of it prevents people from having the freedom to discuss openly their concerns, and two, it kind of just tightens the meeting. We don't want to present an adversarial point of view. Sometimes the residents aren't always happy with us, and they need to have the freedom to discuss that so they can bring it up. So that's a reason site management doesn't attend those meetings.
Well, as of 5:18, we could adjourn the meeting.
Do we need
Have a
somebody
motion?
to? I'll make,
I'll second.
okay.
The moving second, the meeting is adjourned.
Seven.